Good morning and welcome to the Thought for the Day for Friday, the 14th of January. The reading is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 15 to 22. Paying the imperial tax to Caesar. Then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his words. They sent their disciples to him along with Herodians. "Teacher," they said, "we know that you are a man of integrity, and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not?" But Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, "You hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin used for paying the tax." They brought him a denarius, and he asked them, "Whose image is this? And whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then he said to them, "So give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, so they left him and went away. This is very political. We know that Jesus has more than a few run-ins with the Pharisees, but we don't hear much about the Herodians. The Pharisees were a group of Jews with specific beliefs focused on the coming of the Messiah, who were known for their strict interpretation of the law and their zealousness in encouraging others to follow. The Herodians were also a Jewish group, but their hope was founded on Herod as their king. The two groups were enemies, but came together on this occasion with a common goal: to get rid of Jesus. They could see the effect Jesus was having on the people. They feared his influence and the effect it might have on their power. They needed a way of getting rid of him, and if they could use the Romans to do that, even better. For me, this is one of the occasions where, although I know the stories and parables fairly well, my first thought is, how's Jesus going to get out of this one? Where we might be defensive, rise to the bait, and get into all sorts of trouble. We know people who love a good debate, whatever the costs, but Jesus never goes wrong. There's no situation in the Bible where we might say of Jesus' actions or words, "Oh, I don't think he should have done that." So why does Jesus always get it right? Well, he is one with the Father, he's obedient to the Father, he communes with the Father constantly, and there are certainly some hints for us there. And how does Jesus always get it right? Well, here they laid plans to trap him in his words. They start with flattery, then use an insult disguised as a compliment, saying, "You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are," unlike the Pharisees who expected to be looked up to. I imagine hearing the snake Kaa in the Jungle Book saying these things as he does to Mowgli with a hypnotic hiss. Jesus is not taken in with their flattery. He's wise enough to know exactly what they're trying to do. And he doesn't mince his words, saying, "You hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me?" as if he didn't know. Jesus is also discerning enough to know what the authorities need to hear. He basically runs rings round them. And it's given him another opportunity for him to spell out the truth again. He reminds us that we are all citizens of two dominions, the spiritual and the temporal. We have duties to each, which, if we're careful, are generally not in conflict. Later, Paul, in his letter to the Romans, tells us that we must submit to the governing authorities, that we must do what is right, and that it is a matter of conscience. He says, "The one in authority is God's servant for your good," which of course therefore comes with responsibilities. And as you can see in the news at the moment, sometimes means we do have to call them out. So although there are earthly laws we have to follow, we must be clear who we worship and where our loyalties lie. Jesus has already told us that no one can serve two masters, for a slave will either hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. But I don't think it needs to be divided loyalties. As Paul says, if you owe taxes, pay taxes. As the deadline for tax returns looms, it's worth remembering that time spent trying to avoid or even evade tax is time we could spend with God. And if there are rules that the authorities put in place that we don't agree with, do we spend time trying to reinterpret them rather than do what is right, not just for ourselves but for others as well? In this passage, Jesus gets them very cleverly to look at the face of Caesar on the coin and the inscription, which included "Son of the Divine Augustus," so that it highlights the blasphemy and the contrast with God. Then comes the famous line, "So give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." That's us. In Psalm 100, it says, "Know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture." In Isaiah 43 verse 1, the Lord says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." So all they've ended up doing is giving Jesus a great teaching opportunity to remind us that we're made in God's image and that we belong to Him. We belong to God. We matter because we belong to the Creator of the universe. I think there's something very reassuring about this. No wonder they were amazed. Unfortunately, they left Him and went away. But today, I pray, Lord, help me to live today remembering that I belong to You. And I hope you're able to do the same today. Have a great one.